Hi guys, welcome to Bobby Computer again. As I promised to you, I come back with details about another retro PC. Retro PC means with retro components, retro hardware, and I want to be a little bit short this time. This video I do like a tutorial for that person who will own this computer, because I find some problems, not the problems but difficulties in the motherboard BIOS for this computer. It's not problems, it's not issue. This is BIOS from this motherboard. Is this type of BIOS from the motherboard, and the most hard situation I meet when I was in the BIOS, it was is not any chance to save a profile in this BIOS. When you make overclock or any change in the BIOS, you save, it's okay, it's run, but if you want to try something else or to make some modification in the BIOS, you lose what you set up before modify something, and it's not possible to save a profile and after to change to can anytime come back in the what you have before. And for this I want to do this tutorial first to go on the BIOS. I will set up all defaults from the beginning, and I change everything must be changed in the BIOS system because it's old hardware, 10 years old, and today in 2020 you can run with some setups by default for this motherboard. You have to definitely change to make the system be fast and stable for 2020. And after we come back with setup on the BIOS, I will explain short as possible about Windows, not so many things, just to show you some very short preview about programs, about some benchmarks to see stability and temperature for this build. And after we go in macOS High Sierra for this build and show you the same story there about software, about programs where what is installed, and some stability test, and that's it. Okay, then we go in the BIOS. I will restart this computer, and we'll see this BIOS, how it look and what we have to do. I put a video from this build for people who didn't see how the build look outside, in the corner, in the right corner there. Okay, this is the BIOS. First, as I promised, I'm gonna load optimals. First I'm gonna show you how it's now. This MB Intelligent Tweaker, it's set up for overclock and make changes in this motherboard. Okay, current status. In this moment we have Intel Xeon CPU X5670 in stock frequency 2.93 GHz. But how you see, mouse not working in the BIOS anyway, and keyboard as well. Down a little bit there you see turbo frequency for 4201. megahertz. CPU temperature 32 degrees. Okay. Memory 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 slots of 2 gigs in 3 channel. This motherboard support 3 channel memories. Okay. Anchor frequency, memory frequency, and that's it. Escape to go back. Alright, advanced frequency settings. Here we'll overclock the CPU. How you see CPU clock ratio, it's 20. And down BCLK frequency, we increase from default value to 210 or 20. It's mean this frequency from here, 4.2 gigahertz. This the processor can be overclocked higher. Can be overclocked to, I tried 4.6. But if you increase frequency to 4.6, you have to increase voltage. If you increase voltage, you increase temperature. For a daily use, it's not recommended to run in the higher temperature for the frequency for the CPU, and I find this 4.2 the most stable and safe frequency for a safe temperature for daily use computer. And I think 4.2 for all the CPU, 10 years old CPU, it's very good. Alright, this look okay. Here we have external memory profile, XMAP. We can apply here profile 1, but it's nothing changed. Memory frequency, now you see with the profile XMAP disabled, it's 1680 megahertz. If I enable XMAP, will be 1600, the same, but I have to go 1600 megahertz for the stock CPU frequency. That's mean for 2.93. And I messing around a little bit with these settings, and I find with XMAP disable and modify the system memory multiplier here, it's not on auto, because if I run in auto, like you see here, the frequency, memory frequency increased to 2100 and is not stable, and this memory doesn't support 2000 megahertz. Then I have to choose a little bit down multiplier, 8.0, and the frequency go down to 1080, what is very stable for this CPU. Down there, PCI frequency, CPU clock drive, that is not interesting. We can touch that, we leave the settings like it is. Okay, if you go back here in memory settings, I have to modify timings from 99924. I modify to 101026. Everything will be recorded, and in this video I'll show you exactly how it is. This is like it's already overclocked. This is the main settings for the motherboard. Overclock for 4.2 gigahertz. Alright, advantage voltage. An advantage voltage, low light calibration. Here we have few options: auto, standard, level 1, level 2. Level 2, it's the most stable level for low light calibration, to keep the temperature a little bit stable. That help to don't have so much spikes, you know, when the frequency jump up down some cores. And the level 2 for this overclock, for this setup, level 2 is the best options here. We increase CPU core from default normal 1.1 for 2.9 gigahertz. The voltage, it's 1.1 volts. For 4.2 gigahertz, the stable voltage to keep the temperature and frequency in the balance, I find to be 1.35 volts. What is not very high, is not very low, it's exactly what we need to keep this system stable. I didn't modify nothing here, only DDRAM voltage must be 1.6. I don't know why it's 1.0. It's probably work very good with 1.5 as well, but I changed this 1.6 to be sure we don't have any error from the memory timing. Alright, here not so many. I really don't know what is mainly, so Chronos support I could disable anyway, I don't care. I make enable virtualizations technology. I don't know, if you want to run some virtual machines you need to have this setting enabled. And that's it for the intelligent tweaker. Some standard CMOS features that we don't have any drive in IDE mode. Everything is in SATA EHCI, and I think I bother. Okay, what I do? I do load optimal defaults. Okay, I load optimal defaults. Okay, now all they're set up by default. We're gonna save, yes, and we restart computer. And when we go now in Windows, we'll see all settings by default. All settings by default. In the stock CPU frequency 2.9 gigahertz, and we're gonna check and we're gonna make a difference about voltages, about temperature, about everything. Okay, this is the BIOS. Will be a little bit longer because in the default settings everything is different. We apply the quick, the faster boot when we do the settings for the next time. Okay, now to see the difference, like you see here, for the first information, this is core temp, reading the temperature for the all cores from the processor. Like you see here, frequency 3.63 megahertz, and this show BLCK level of frequency 133 or 23 level. 23 level, that's mean 3063 megahertz. But if we open CPU Z, will be something a little bit different. We'll see something different. I think so. No, actually they are the same. Yeah, this is 3.196, almost 3.2, because the turbo setting from this CPU it's 3.2, 3200 megahertz. All right, multiplier, like I said, it's 133 or 24, and here show me 120 or 23. It's a little bit difference about these two applications. I don't take this so much in serious, because for this at this application I need only to read my temperature, and I could put back in the background. You always have idea about the highest core of the CPU here in the taskbar. Okay, CPU Z show me 3.2 gigahertz and voltage 1.2 volts actually. Alright, the memory 666, that it's mean 1333 megahertz, I think, in the triple channel. Like you see, it's triple channel. Anyway, this we are interested to see the frequency from the CPU in the default profile from the motherboard. Okay, we're gonna do only one thing here. We're gonna run this Cinnamon 15 to see the score from the stock frequency from this processor. Alright, and we're gonna do the difference about after we overclock the CPU by okay, we can check here. Alright, we have 46 degrees in load, very cool from the stock frequency. And our benchmark is finished. Let's see, 668, sorry. Okay, we have 668 score from this processor in the stock 2.94 gigahertz. Alright, we don't run OpenGL, it's not important now about the graphic card. Okay, yes, we save, and now we go back in BIOS and we do all modification we need for new configuration, overclock configuration for this CPU. And we come back in Windows to make the difference. Now we're back in BIOS. Delete, task delete for the BIOS settings. Alright. When you make modification in the BIOS, you don't need the right side of the BIOS. Only if you want to load optimize defaults, or put a password for the BIOS, or blah blah. Like you see here, what is interesting, we don't have any profile, we don't have any possibility to save a profile. Trust me, I check everything in this BIOS and we don't have. We have save and exit setup for F10, exit without savings. We have F4 for QFlash to update the BIOS. What I already done is the latest BIOS for this motherboard, 2012 I think. Okay, save CMOS to BIOS, F11. Okay, that's mean I find now with you for the first time possibility to save the profile. That is amazing. It's amazing. I'm very happy because I do that, because I can save your profile now. First I'm gonna do what we need to save for a default BIOS, because as I say before, it's some things here in the BIOS by default which is not available anymore for 2012. For example, in here actually we do nothing. Reset open case, we don't need to change nothing. Okay, the CPU warning temperature we don't need, because we don't run never CPU so hot to need a warning. CPU fine warning is not a point for that. CPU smart fan control, it's enabled and run by default. CPU smart fan mode auto, it's run by default, we don't need to change nothing. Back, power management setup, here I will leave it enabled like it was by default. Only change I do, I change 32-bit mode to 64-bit mode, because everything run in 64-bit mode, and that you have to do in this part of the BIOS. Anything it's like it is. Integrated peripherals. Here we have some important changes. Extreme hard drive disabled. By default I never change. Like you see here, all the drives from this computer in 2020, everything run in AHCI mode. Before, everything was in IDE mode. We don't need to keep these settings anymore. We have to change this to AHCI. We have option to write. If you want to put more drives to make write 0, write 1, blah blah, you have to change in the write setup there, but it's not the case from this situation. We changed it to HSCI. SATA port native disabled. We don't change here nothing, because disable, like you see in the right side, it's work at legacy. What we are everything we run here in this legacy is nothing in UEFI. This motherboard doesn't support UEFI BIOS or UEFI settings. Okay, we leave it disabled. USB controllers enabled, keyboard enabled, mouse function, we have to change this to enable. Okay, USB storage function enable, USB 3 high-speed root. Here we have to change for USB 3.0 in macOS. We have to change this to XHCI. Alright. Audio codec we leave like it is, everything like it is, blah blah blah. USB controller enable, eSATA. If you want to run a eSATA drive in the future, okay, we can change this HCI as well. Enable GSATA, same, and that's it. And GSATA, another GSATA here, HCI, and that's it. We're finished with this. Back, Advantage BIOS Futures. Okay, hardbook disk priority. If you have 2 or more drives with operation system installed, like we have to choose here. Look, we have here ADATA SSD for Windows and SanDisk 64 gigs for macOS. I keep Windows by default because I don't know why. I install many Hackintosh and usually I don't have this, I didn't meet this problem, but in this motherboard I meet this problem. If I run Windows from the bootloader, Clover bootloader from macOS, Windows don't boot. Don't ask me why, because I tried to figure out, but I didn't. Usually in any Hackintosh setup, the first priority boot is in macOS. When you start computer, a bootloader Clover starts in your screen and you choose which operation system you want, Windows or macOS. And it's easy, fast, and work perfect. In this motherboard, I can put SanDisk Hackintosh first, macOS, Windows is there, appear in the bootloader, but when you press to boot in the Windows, it's not boot, just freeze. Actually, it's not freeze, it's black screen. Windows never boot from Clover bootloader, and for this reason I choose main boot in Windows. When you start computer, first go automatic in Windows. If you want to run macOS, just press F12, and I will show you later, and choose SSD from macOS, that's SanDisk 64 gigs, and the computer will go in the macOS High Sierra. Okay, this we don't change, we keep the first boot ADATA SSD, which is for Windows. Quick boot, here we change enable to have a faster boot when we start computer. First boot device must be hard disk, because when we want to change to macOS, to choose the SSD from macOS, we have to choose this hard disk, press enter, and we have both SSDs available to change, much easy, and I will show you later about this. Okay, second boot device CD-ROM is not here, but we leave by default, and third boot is USB, which is perfect like that. Okay, here we don't change nothing. Only here we can change with the PCI Express or 16 first. We have 2 PCI Express 16, but in the first is installed our graphic card, and that's it. Standard CMOS futures. Like you see here, everything by default is in either channel as well, like both drives from the computer, ADATA and SanDisk, they're running either mode, which is not correct. We need to be in the AHCI. We already changed there, but we can put here to don't have any conflict between when we boot in the drive, we put here none. Alright, back, and the second one the same, none, okay, back, and we finish with this. I'm gonna save this by default. Anytime when you need to load optimize defaults, we don't load this anymore, load optimize defaults, we're gonna load optimize user defaults. And I press F11 first with empty. I'm gonna put user defaults, user default profile. All right, save, enter. And now in the first number one profile we have user default profile. Everything it's happened, and you want to run user defaults or optimize defaults, press profile number one, and you don't need to change nothing else in the BIOS anymore. Okay, escape, and now we go to overclock and change, and we go in advanced frequency settings, and BLCK for now it's locked in 133 or 22 times CPU clock ratio. It's been 2.93 GHz. Why show there 3.2? Because 3.2 is turbo boost for the CPU. Okay, first we're gonna change this CPU clock ratio to 20, enter, and now I will see we decrease the frequency, because 133 or 20 is 2.66 is not, or 22 times is or 20 times. All right, we go back here in advanced CPU core features. We have some change to do, some changes. Intel Turbo Boost, it's auto, it's enabled. We don't need to keep this enabled because we overclock CPU to 4.2 GHz, and it's in Turbo Boost is not we don't need anymore any Turbo Boost. Then we disable this. All right, CPU cores enabled, yes, all. CPU multi-threading, yes, of course, we need the 6 core and 12 threads for this, we keep enabled. CPU hedge halt C1E, God know what is mean. In any overclock for any motherboard, this kind of stuff actually we don't need, and it's better to disable. Stage support, blah blah, the same story, disable. CPU thermal monitor we don't need because we don't run CPU so hot to need somebody monitors this. Okay, CPU ACE function again I don't really need. The best serve for thermal power and power requirements, blah blah, disable. Bidirectional pro hot pro darkness, disable. And that we have to do here. The first important thing is Turbo Boost to disable here, back. And the most important here, because we work only with this to overclock CPU, this must be enabled to have opportunity to change this PCLK frequency from 133 to have 4.2 GHz. We have to increase 133 to 2.10. Like you see now, 133 repeat or 20 is 2.66 GHz. When we modify this, And in this situation, from a system memory multiplier here, if we keep in auto, we have now in this frequency 2.66 we have 1333 megahertz memory frequency speed. And when we increase this to 2.10, okay, all right, we see up there CPU frequency increased to 4.2, but as well memory multiplier increased to 2100 megahertz, which is not supported for this motherboard. This motherboard DDR3 doesn't support. It's not run. Will we have a blue screen, or actually it's not blue screen, the computer don't boot never in this memory frequency, and we have to change this system memory multiplier to 8. If we put in 6, you see, will be too low, 1260, which is too low, because by default this memory time speed is 1600. Then we have to increase this to 8, and now we have a frequency very near to our base frequency 1600. We have 1680 megahertz, which is perfect for this setup. Down there we don't change nothing. CPU clock drive, PCI Express clock drive, everything will live like it is. We go to advantage memory settings, because here we have to change timings, because we increase, you see here in timings we have 99924. Now it's locked, we can change, we unlock in a minute, but this timing is for 1600 megahertz, and it's probably to work like that. It's probably to work. I didn't try, but to be sure we don't have any issue with the memory frequency, we're gonna increase this timing, because we increase the frequency with 1680 megahertz, and then it's better to increase the timings for this memory speed. And we change here timing selectable. We put quick to change for all 3 channels in the same time. We go here, we change, we put 10. All right, 10 again, and here 26. I choose like that and it worked perfect. Okay, now we change in the channel A, like we go in the channel B, we see it is already changed. If you see standard timings 99924, current time is 10:10:10:26. Check the channel, see the same. It's everything was changed. We don't touch nothing else. We finish here, we go back, and we go in the voltages now. And like I said before, low light calibration, I choose level 2, must be the stable level. We increase the voltages from 1 to 2.2 voltage, we increase to 1.35, enter, and DRAM voltages, memory voltages, we increase to 1.60. And that's it, guys. Nothing else, nothing else. Everything is done. Now to save this, F11, which is profile 2, we set here user 4.2 gigahertz. Okay, enter. F10, no, escape first. F10, save to CMOS, yes, and here we go. And I hope it's boot. We'll see in a minute. Okay guys, back in Windows, back in business. What we have here? Um, 4.2 gigahertz. It's new overclock CPU. Open CPU Z. Alright, like you see here, temperature still very low, is now loaded, but last time we have around 46 degrees. Now we have 50, 55, 58, blah blah blah. Of course, CPU running the highest frequency, 4.2 megahertz, 3.2 volts, memory increase in this is 840 or 2, this means 1680 megahertz. Timings what we set up, 10, 10, 10, 26, everything look okay. Now to see the temperature, we run Cinebench 5, Cinebench 15. Okay. Now you see here 6 core 12 threads on 4.2 gigahertz. It's not anymore in 2.93, it's 4.2. We see this here. It's our score for stock CPU, 2.93 gigahertz. Now we're gonna run to see, and in the same time I'm gonna show temperature. Okay, we have here we 71, 64, 66, which is very good, very good temperatures. 73, we have some spikes there, 75, 77, but anyway, it's very good. And now the score, guys, the score 951, and previously checks what I run before you guys, I reached 973 in 4.3, because I tried to find the frequency stable for the CPU, and I find 4.2 is the most stable, but before was running 4.3 and we reached 973. In 4.2 was 954, now it's 951, which is absolutely beautiful, beautiful. Okay, messy afterburner, show. Okay, now we are in stock frequency from this graphic card. In profile 3 guys, press profile 3 and we increase power limit to the maximum, temperature limit to the maximum, we overclock little higher clock speed and memory speed. Okay, and we try again, and we see the frequency increase, and probably the performance will be very low increase. Memory is increased, frequency must be 1200 megahertz. Yes, 1215 megahertz. Of course, temperature grow to 70 degrees now from 50, because we increase frequency. It's a maximum what we can do with this graphic card. But I repeat, you can upgrade your graphic card, or 980 Ti will be perfect, or GTX 1050 Ti will be the most perfect graphic card for this. 951 points, CPU benchmarks, OpenGL 1.3, 103 FPS. Okay, we can save this, yes. Okay, temperature, you see we load maximum 77 degrees in this 6 core, 76 in the 5 74, 76. We are very good. Okay, I can run actually in 3D Mark In 3D Mark I always choose SkyDriver benchmark because it's very read very well performance from the CPU and the graphic card at the same time. You can run here custom run to choose if you want only graphic test or if you want combined test with the CPU test. And we're gonna run the 3D Mark benchmark. This show you Messy Afterburner show you in the real time temperature for your graphic card, frequency, memory frequency. There you can see i7 960. It was the CPU before I upgraded with Xeon. I'm gonna change now in Messy Afterburner when we finish with this. Graphic card fun start to increase the speed. Now this is a good test for GPU because it's very big stress for the GPU. You see temperature around 93. It's a blower version of the graphic card, of course. It's she's overclock with the 400 megahertz, actually more than the base speed. Usually this graphic card run around 850-90 megahertz. Now it's running 1200 megahertz. Now this test is for CPU. We see a little bit temperature increase in the CPU. Don't mind that i7 960 is Xeon 5670. I'm gonna change. Now temperature in the processor grows 63, 66. This is a very good benchmark for, and CPU is in stress, big stress, 72, 73. It's not so bad. And run like you see here 93% from the CPU and 4200 megahertz. Now the last test is to combine GPU and the CPU in the same time. That means we increase the temperature and the load for both CPU and the GPU. You see GPU 77, 79, 81, 90%, CPU 63, 60, 60%. Both work in the same time. It's a combine, a common test. And the results, 1970, 795. You can save this default. We have some result live. Okay, save. We can load a different a little bit higher here, but all the same results. Okay, we'll see this temperature, full load 76, 77, that same, we didn't increase more temperature. I'm gonna run from 5-10 minutes AIDA 64 for a stability test. Ready to go. Okay. Now, what we have here, we have CPU, motherboard, CPU. This is not interesting. I'm not do a combined score with graphic card because the most important thing we have to see is the CPU and memory, because we overclock CPU and we overclock the memory, and that's matter, not graphic card test. it's interesting in this thing now. Okay, I'm gonna start and leave it for 10 minutes, and I come back to you guys when this is finished. Now guys, we come back after 10 minutes, 11, running AIDA 64. Of course, it's a very powerful stress for CPU. Temperature increased to 80, near 90 degrees, 89. He didn't cross 89 degrees, which is very good, but temperature increased as well. But it's stable. This is important, stable. You never reach this temperature in the normal usage or when you play a game. It's important to be stable. Okay, we stop this. And guys, we go in BIOS back to run macOS. We have to press F12. Remember, F12. This is important. When this screen comes, F12. And now we go in the boot menu. That's it. And we have hard disk. Remember, hard disk. We press enter, we find both drives here. Okay. Okay, this Samsung flash drive is mine, is my USB, don't mind him. We have to choose SanDisk 64 gigs. This is the drive for macOS, okay? Enter. And we go in macOS. Welcome to Clover. Okay, we try before these two drives for Windows, which is not working, but doesn't matter now. When you start the computer, Windows start first boot. You don't need to mind that two drives. We go straight here, boot macOS from High Sierra. Enter. And that's it. Apple logo. Load it. Come on. It's fast. This is fast. Much faster than Windows, trust me. And here is it. Hack Mac. I don't know. I choose this name. Doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the password. You can change if you want after. Enter. And here we are. I don't know. I choose this wallpaper. You can change. Alright, Google Chrome. It was open before. Open now. And what we have here, guys. About this Mac. macOS High Sierra version 10.13.6. What is important here, this is the latest security update for High Sierra. This operation system, it's up to date. Okay, this is the like iMac 27-inch late 2013. You see it's already recognized this CPU overclock 4.2 GHz, 64 Intel Xeon, 12 GB of RAM, High Sierra, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 760, 4095 MHz, system report, iMac blah blah, 6 core, boot from version 1.4.3. Information here you don't need to do. Graphic card, NVIDIA GeForce 60, all details about your graphic cards here. No NVMe drives, SATA drives is this main drive, and you find here Windows drive. Okay, USB, all stuff here, all good in the place. Display, storage, High Sierra, until it's Windows, memory, all 6 slots covered with 2 gigs. Okay, programs installed. The Clover configured, I show you. This is FE Mounter to mount your FE folder from Blackmagic speed test, little speed for your drive, High Sierra. We choose here the target. This is from High Sierra. and the speed in write 167 with 380 in read. Very good speed for all hardware, isn't it? Okay. This is Edge Assistant test. It's the same for this speed. You have Microsoft Office, Super Duper. This is for clone your drive. Choose High Sierra 60 gigs. And here you put a future SSD. And all you need is to copy now and you clone your drive to highest capacity. Okay, Google Chrome, I show you working, Adobe Reader, Android file transfer if you want to transfer file from the Android phone, Carbon Copy Cloner, it's another application to clone your macOS, Cinebench 20, I show you a little bit later to run, Final Cut Pro, post work, will be a little slow to configure it first. You see here NVIDIA WebDriver. This is the latest operation system to support NVIDIA cards. We have to open anyway here because it's first time when you open the Final Cut Pro. Now it's open. Okay, open. I didn't open before and it's a little bit slow now. And here we are, Final Cut Pro. All you need, import files and work with it with this. Okay, Cinebench 4, Cinebench 5, I don't think you need this. iMovie the same, will be first open now. Okay, continue, this is a little bit fast. Import media and go. Another Logic Pro X. Logic Pro X for music stuff. You have two applications here for convert audio files, convert video files, Messenger for desktop, MP player for video, parallel desktop for virtual machines, system info, Photoscape X to edit photos and video files, RAR, it's like WinRAR, VLC for video, WhatsApp, WinClone, this is to clone your Windows, but it's not necessary. You do that from Windows. YouTube downloader to download the video from YouTube. YouTube MP3 if you want to download the music file from MP3. This is iStat menu. It's to check your temperature and from macOS. This is application for it's like a WinZip extractor file, and that's it, guys. I'm gonna run short some benchmarks here. We're gonna try Cinebench 15 first. It's in download somewhere here. Okay, Cinebench 15 for Mac OS. I already run this before. It's 997, 998. Actually, it's a better score in Mac than in Windows. We run again. See, CPU is full loaded. $987, near to the same score. But if I remember where better was 951 in Windows. 951 in Windows, and here we have 987. This is Cinebench 15. No, you don't need to save that. Cinebench 20 is an application, it's already installed. This is the highest. I didn't run actually Cinebench 20, I forgot in Windows, but doesn't matter, we run here. Now, Cinebench 20. You see the score, 2016. I ran before, we run again. What I want to show you interesting here. Watch this. Like a comparison before, here we have a Xeon, the same Xeon what we have, but 2 processor, you know the Mac Pro with 2 processor, 5 common 1, 12 threads, 12 core, 24 threads, 266, Xeon 5660, we have 5670. The score for 2 processor, 12 core, 24, it was 2705. Actually, you have to think about in Mac OS, in Mac Pro, that Mac Pro 5 Common 1 with 2 processor, running stock speed 2.6 gigahertz, and the score is 2700. And we are here only with 6 core, it's only 1 processor, 5670, 1 processor, 6 core, 12 threads, and we reach the score 2066. We are near to a 7th generation unlocked CPU. This you must realize what capability is from this CPU. This Xeon 6 core 12 threads. It's a very good performance when you overclock. This 7th generation unlocked CPU i7 7700K running 4.2 GHz. We run in 4.2 GHz with a Xeon 5670 and we are near the same score. This 10 old years processor have the same performance like a 3 years old processor, 7th generation i7. We cross i7 6th generation. You on 2014, a little bit lower, but we are there. We cross i7 6700 in 2.6 gigahertz. We are in 4.6 gigahertz, and we cross this. Cinebench 20 show us where we are with performance, but at the same time show us if the system is stable, because if it's not stable with overclock or the memory, we're gonna have a restart instant, a blue screen in Windows and the restart and black screen in macOS. But the system is stable in 4.2 gigahertz. Our system is stable and run very good. We sort with this. Guys, I don't know what I have to show you more. I promised something, let me to come back to see. With the Clover configurator, yeah. To work with your FE folder, to upgrade your macOS, first you have to mount the FE. You see, press here mount FE, you find your FE from your SSD here. We don't have for Windows because Windows not run with the GPT partition, we run with MBR partition format. We put the password 1234, okay, and here we are, open partition. This is FE folder. Here you find all configuration and all setup for your Mac. In here, in Clover. When you want to upgrade your actually you get updates only for security here. You can stay with this, you can upgrade, it's up to you. My advice, stay with this, you don't need any security updates anymore. It's enough, it's 2020, you already have this for High Sierra, it's almost enough. But if you want to do that, all you need to do first, in Clover configuration here, I showed you before, install a Clover update. It's not necessary now because we have already version, the latest version. If you find one, check now, download and install. And when you install a new version of configurator, you have to mind the UEFI drives here. These drives here, the drivers. Actually, this is drivers you have to find to update to a new version. After you update this and finish with the new Clover configuration version, you install Kext. Now you have UEFI file here, you see, and you go here other, because your Kext is in other. This is your Kext drivers. All this, it's in other, not in 10.13, not in 14, not in 15, in other. And you go here in FE folder and choose other. Okay, and we see we already have a new version for Realtek, blah blah blah. This is an internet driver. We don't need. It's there. If you plug a USB Wi-Fi from Realtek to be compatible with macOS, that USB will run with this driver. But we don't need to do that now because we don't need this driver. We don't have any USB driver from Realtek. I just want to show you what you have to do. After you do that, you can go in security update. You find in the system preference. Actually, this is High Sierra. It's not in the system preference. You go here about this Mac software update, and we have updates now only for some programs. This, and security update is here. It's already done. Update installed in the last 13 days. Security update 2020-004. It's done. It's already done. You don't need to do that anymore. Okay? Okay, we fix this. We fix with macOS. All you have to do in macOS is done already. Empty this trash. And guys, that's it. That's it. This is the build for a retro PC. A new retro PC with the processor Xeon X5670 overclock in 4.2 GHz in the 2 operation system, Windows 10 Pro and macOS High Sierra. I hope you like this video, guys. I say goodbye for now, and I see you later with another video. I have another build, 9th generation. I'm gonna record the video now and I present you later. See you later, guys. Thank you very much. Bye.